Far beyond the protomolecule ring gates lies Planet 2 of System 673, more commonly known as Laconia. This planet was home to those who split off from Mars in 2359 to form a new empire. Purer than the red rock that they had left behind, and set on the goal of colonizing the planet and restoring the mysterious structure that orbits it. In this video, I will be covering every scrap of detail we have on the planet, the people, and the forces they possess. Similar to Earth, Laconia is lush with green wildlife and tall mountains, with open sources of water all over the place. The planet was generally habitable by humans, provided that they didn't actually consume anything on the planet and grew their own food. This is due to the fact that everything on the planet evolved in its own way and had a chemistry that doesn't particularly work well with humans. However, the surface of the planet was littered with ancient protomolecule structures that are also found on Ilus. These structures were all interconnected via the protomolecule. While lacking any sort of presence of advanced intelligence, the planet was teeming with the life of many types of creatures. First, we have the Grunchers. These creatures were similar to frogs and primarily lived in or near water. These amphibians were capable of large jumps in and out of water. Next, we have the Slinker Vines. These creatures were spring-shaped and were similar to slinkies. In this scene, we can observe them as they hang from the trees in this fashion. After that, we have the Sunbirds. These creatures share many characteristics with the birds of Earth and were capable of building nests to offer their offspring a home. Finally, we have the most interesting of them all, the Strange Dogs. While not very much explored in the show, we can assume that these dogs have some sort of close connection with the protomolecule. The tops of their heads move in a strange manner and have the signature bluish glow. More importantly, they possess the ability to fix things. The scope of their abilities ranged from fixing inanimate objects to living things, and they were also capable of analyzing and understanding when something needs fixing at all. Following the formation of the Sol Ring and the discovery of 1,300 habitable systems beyond, the dream of Mars began to fade away. Despite the terraforming project not being placed on hold or being terminated, people began to realize the pointlessness of continuing the project. After all, why bother to transform a lifeless rock into a garden when there are hundreds of planets with free air and water ready to be colonized? Admiral Winston Duarte around this point believes he has lost Mars, and the plans of the movement to Laconia begin. In Season 4, we see actions already being taken to move equipment. While somewhat unknown as to when this exactly happens, the first wave of colonists spread across the ring systems, with one of the groups making it to Laconia. Information of the planet gets relayed back to Mars, and the plans progress even further. A pivotal moment in Laconian history was when the second wave of Laconians made their way to the new home planet. A fleet of at least 11 Martian warships made their way to the Sol Ring alongside the Free Navy. Most likely leading this assault was Admiral Salvaterre, who was in the MCRN Barkeith. After defeating the ships that were tasked to defend the Sol Ring, all ships cruise past the debris and make their way towards the Laconia Ring. However, only 10 out of 11 ships were fortunate enough to make it to their new home, as the Barkeith was lost in transits to the mysterious ring entities. With 10 warships in their control, that drastically increased Laconia's soldier count and fleet strength, as well as providing them with the resources and equipment to begin building weapons of their own. For the next year, Laconia would continue to prosper as they established larger and larger colonies on the planet, and continued their research on the protomolecule structures. The relationship between the Laconians and the Free Navy Belters was rocky, to put it mildly. At first, it seemed mutually beneficial. In exchange for the Martian warships, the Free Navy would offer them the last remaining sample of the protomolecule. This would be essential for the research they would be conducting. They would operate in secret and not rat each other out in any way. They would even go so far as to help one another defeat the inner ships and get to the Sol Ring. After a year of silently helping one another, the relationship is suddenly terminated by Admiral Duarte. The Free Navy was nothing but a distraction for the Sol system, and they had no use for them anymore. Regardless of the fact that the Free Navy was going to lose without reinforcements, the Laconians refused to help, and stop the Free Navy from entering their system ever again. This section will first cover the people involved in a general overview, and then we'll move on to individuals. The Laconian colonies mainly consisted of large groups of soldiers and scientists. An easy way to look at this is that the scientists mostly came with the first wave of colonists, whereas most of the soldiers came with the second. The scientists live in houses that look more like habitats that were pre-built and deployed. These habitats have a lot of scientific equipment and tools used for surveying the planet, such as this drone. Whilst there is no official number on the amount of soldiers there are on Laconia, we can make a decent estimate of at least 1,700 MCRN personnel. These numbers were drawn from the average crew complement of each ship in the fleet of the second wave. Now moving on to specific people. First, we have Winston Duarte, the leader of the Laconian Empire. A former admiral in the Mars Congressional Republic Navy, but now is in charge of all major operations on Laconia. We haven't seen him in many scenes, but we do know that his passion for Laconia runs deep, as he was truly stricken by the loss of the dream of Mars. Next, we have Paulo Cortazar. First appearing in Season 2, Cortazar was one of the lead scientists that were heading up the protogen protomolecule research on Thoth's station. His specialty was nanoinformatics. Like all of the other scientists there, he underwent a procedure called a transcranial magnetic hyperstimulation that would inhibit his ability to feel empathy. His history is full of twists and turns, as after the successful OPA assault on the station, Cortazar is taken back to Tycho, upon which he's taken by Anderson Dawes to a secret location. Sometime in Season 5, he is then taken once again, this time by the Free Navy/Laconians. At the end of Season 5, we finally see him at Laconia as he's conducting research on the mysterious protomolecule structure that orbits the planet. We see him for the last time in Season 6, Episode 5, as he barges into the room to tell Duarte that his new coordination protocol returned a coherent reply pattern, which would allow him to turn on the protomolecule structure. Next in line is Kara. As the daughter of two Laconian scientists, Kara is one of the first children to grow up in an entirely different solar system. She attends school like all of the other kids and has a curiosity towards creatures on Laconia. This leads her to accidentally poisoning a sunbird and also running into one of the strange dogs. Later on, she realizes that the dogs can fix things and attempts to get them to revive her recently passed brother, Alexander. This attempt is somewhat successful as Zan comes back to life, but clearly altered in some way by the protomolecule. Kara's parents are quick to reject the fact that Zan is alive once again, which forces Kara and Zan to run away into the dark forest. Some other people to note are the aforementioned Admiral Silverterre and Lieutenant Babbage. These two were critical to the Laconia movement as they were directly involved with the covert trading of ships and also led the rogue Martians at the Battle of the Ring Gate and successfully brought 10 new ships to Laconia. As mentioned previously, the second wave of Laconians consisted of at least 1,700 MCRN personnel on numerous Martian ships. In this scene as they pass Medina Station, we can count 11. Amongst the fleet was at least one D-class fleet support ship, in this case the MCRN Barkeith. There were also 3 Sirocco-class assault cruisers, and at least 2 Morgan-class patrol destroyers. Finally, we have 5 unidentified Martian ships that each have a single Epstein drive. These are most likely Morgans or corvettes. The 3 large Sirocco classes really go towards increasing the amount of personnel, as they are intended for large amounts of crew and force recon marines. They also come with 3 detachable drop skiffs each, which would be useful in missions that would require going from the surface to orbit in more or less rapid succession. One of the most interesting aspects of Laconia is the mysterious structure that orbits the planet. This structure had a very similar architectural style as the ring gates, especially in the bits with the spirals. It also possesses the signature bluish glow of the protomolecule when activated. The structure is visible from the surface as well. Man-made structures are placed onto the exterior to probably act as a base of operations that would save many unnecessary trips down to the surface and back up. The previously mentioned skiffs were used to ferry back and forward supplies and people as well. At the end of episode 6, we can finally see the structure as it becomes fully active, thanks to Cortazar's efforts. What good would an empire be if it didn't have the capability to defend itself? Fortunately, the Laconians, which are the best of the best, were able to build 2 different weapons of great destruction. First, we have the minefield that was built by the first wave of Laconians. This minefield existed pretty early on, but was only activated once the second wave had made their transit. These mines were capable of keeping out any unauthorized ships and were able to hold off the force of even the Free Navy. The second type of weaponry the Laconians were able to build were the Ring Station Railguns, or RSRGs. A total of 6 of these high-grade railguns were commissioned and were constructed from a highly durable unknown Laconian metal. These railguns were the largest ever constructed by man and had a ridiculously fast firing rate for a railgun. They were made with the intention to be fitted onto large titanium bands that would wrap around the ring station. Due to the fact that the station had effectively zero inertia, this makes it a perfect emplacement. Finally, the railguns were powered by a massive central reactor, which is a pretty big design flaw as it's quite the weak spot. But to be fair, it was highly unlikely that any ship could have gotten past the railguns to get close enough to exploit it. Thank you for watching my breakdown on everything we know about Laconia in the Expanse TV show. If you would like to see more detailed videos like this on the Expanse or other science fiction franchises, please click the subscribe button so you never miss a new upload.